Welcome back. This is Moses Charisma Kokroko, and welcome back to Epigenosco series, where I teach on memory and I teach on how to memorize any information you wish to memorize effectively. I want you to do me a favor and give me a feedback of how the methods that I taught previously have been working for you. Okay, I'd like to know the C principle and the Jenny method. I'd like to know how they are working for you. So give me a feedback on whether they are working or they are not working. I'd like to know. Okay, so I'm going straight to today. I am going to teach on the chunking method. This is one of the fantastic methods you would ever know. Okay, and then it is mostly used to memorize numbers. Not only numbers, but mostly it works effectively for numbers in particular. So this is the chunking method, and then I am going to take you through it, and I want you to stay tuned with me as I take you through the chunking method. Now understand this, that your memory, okay, or scientists believe that our memories were not designed for our age. This is an information age where there's a lot of information we're expected to memorize, but then we are not taught how effectively we could memorize them. We only told memorize, but they don't teach us how. So scientists discovered this some of these principles, okay, that I've been talking about, and then it is one way to memorize anything effectively and to make the brain function the way it was intended to function. So there is something we call the elaborate encoding. What the elaborate encoding does is to take an information, let's say an abstract information or information that is naturally not designed for your memory, and turn it into an information that is designed for your memory. That is what we call elaborate encoding. Then that is what we are going to do today in the chunking method. You are going to encode. It is called encoding. Okay, so with the chunking method, let me tell you a story. Okay, one day I went to the beach side in Accra with some friends of mine who were pastors. They were two, okay, and then we were swimming. So when we got there, we actually met some ladies swimming as well, and then one of my friends decided to get in touch with one of the ladies. So he called the lady over, and when the lady came to us, she was scared, okay, and all that. So we decided to swim with the lady. We started swimming with the lady, and then my friend decided to take the contact number of the lady. Now by then we were in the sea, and we had no phones on us. How were we going to memorize these numbers? So the lady just mentioned the number once, and then I caught these numbers in my memory. So my friend was like, oh wait, let me go for my phone and then come back for the number. I told my friend, no, don't worry, I have the number in my memory, so I'll give it to you when we go out of the water. He was like, no, how is that possible? I said, don't worry, let me just mention the numbers. So I mentioned the numbers just right there, and then he was shocked. So we were swimming and all that. We finished swimming, and when we went out of the water and then we dressed up, we're going back to the house, he asked me, please, the number, give it to me. And I mentioned the number exactly. He was like, how did you do this? How did you? I told him it is a technique, and this is exactly the chunking method that I used to memorize this number. It is so easy, and it can be used to memorize any number within a short period of time. So now this is the chunking method. The chunking method, like I said earlier, is used to memorize numbers in particular. Why? Because of the nature of the chunking method. Now the word chunk actually means to break in pieces. It means to break in pieces. So the chunking method is actually reducing the number of information you want to memorize by increasing their size. All right, you reduce the number of information you wish to memorize by increasing their size. So the more you increase the size of an information, the lesser it becomes quantity wise. Okay, so you reduce the quantity by increasing the size. Now another thing that you need to understand about this chunking method is this: when it comes to chunking method, like I told you in the previous video, your long-term memory is very important, which means that in the chunking method, you are going to interpret new information in light of what is already in your long-term memory. So what is in your long-term memory, or the information you know previously that are in your long-term memory that are impossible to forget, are going to be a great advantage for you to apply this chunking method. Chunking method would not be so effective for you if you don't use your long-term memory, which means that every information that is impossible to forget is what you are going to use to chunk the new information that are coming in. So straight into the chunking method. Now let's take something like this. Have you realized that mobile phone numbers are broken into pieces? For instance, if they are 10-digit numbers, you see them 054 hyphen 063 hyphen 854 hyphen 6. Do you see that? That is what we call chunking. Alright, that is what we call chunking. You break them into pieces. Chunking is going to help you if you interpret any information that is coming in light of what is already in your memory. So let's take this information, for instance. Let's take 0911. Maybe you have these numbers to memorize. 0911 2001. Okay, so let's say 0911 2001. When I mention this number to you, you might forget easily. But if you want to interpret this in light of the information that is already in your long-term memory, this is what you have to do. You have to break these numbers that I have given you. It is abstract, okay? And things work out. Let me tell you something. Our memories are designed to capture information that have links. So usually, if information does not have a lot of links, it is easier to forget. Let me show you what exactly I'm talking about. What did you eat yesterday morning? Do you see it is difficult to remember? But if you can remember where you were before you ate the food, or with whom you ate the food, it becomes easier to remember. When I ask you last week Tuesday, what did you read? It becomes difficult to remember. But if you remember where you were before reading, or with whom you were reading, or what interfered, okay, what event interfered with your reading, you'd remember exactly what you were reading. That is it. Why? Because the information now has lots of connections, and I'm going to take you through that in a different method that I'll be talking about. So now, the more information has a connection, the more easier it is to remember. So in the chunking method, you see the numbers I mentioned: 0911 2001. This is the number I mentioned. Now we are going to break these numbers into chunks. So let's say 09, one chunk, 11, another chunk, 2001, another chunk. Now what does it look like? Does it not look like a date? Very good. Now that it looks like a date, it is easier to remember. Okay, it is easier to remember because now it looks more like a date. So now we have 09 hyphen 11 hyphen 2001. That is September 11th 2001. Now what happened in September 11th 2001? If you don't know what happened on this date, then it becomes impossible to use the chunking method in this regard. Do you see that? Because whatever you are going to use to interpret the new information for it to stick, or whatever you are going to connect the new information to, must be something that you already know. So if you don't know what took place in this 11th September 2001, then it is not advisable that you use it to chunk an information. No, you have to use something that is already in your long-term memory, something you know very well, something you are well acquainted with, that is impossible to forget. So do you know what happened on September 11th 2001? Very good. If you don't know, then it won't work for you in this regard, which means that you have to look for other familiar things to memorize these numbers. But if you know what took place on this date, then now you can hang this new information on that information that is already there. Okay, so what took place on September 11th 2009 was when Alqaeda, okay, the Islamic terrorist Alqaeda attacked America. This is a historical date. So if you have numbers like this and you break them into chunks, and in most cases you wouldn't know that the numbers are actually familiar things unless you break them into chunks. This is why anything you have, first break them into chunks and it becomes so familiar. A typical example is this: head, shoulder, knees and toe. Now if you see this and it's written, okay, it's written together without spaces: head, shoulders, knees and toes, and you see head, shoulders, knees and toes. Do you see it becomes difficult for you to even memorize what exactly it is about? Even the pronunciation becomes difficult except you break them into chunks: head, shoulder, knee, toe. That is exactly how it works. Do you see? Head, shoulder, knees and toes. So when you break them into chunks, you have what you have done is that you have reduced the quantity by increasing the size. Do you see that? So head, shoulders, knees, and toe, and it becomes so easier for you to now memorize, because you are going to memorize them in light of what you already know. My head, my shoulders, my knees, my toes. This is a song that is already in your long-term memory. So then head, shoulders, knees, and toes become a new information that you can easily hang on the information that is already in your long-term memory. So if you don't know that date that I mentioned, it becomes so difficult. If you don't know the event that took place on that date, you cannot use it to memorize any new information, because both would vanish. Yes, you have to link new information to a long-term memory. So this is the simple method of chunking. You can use chunking to memorize as many as 100 random numbers. Okay, as many as 100 random numbers. For instance, let me mention this number for you to see. Consider this: 0, 9, 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 12, 0, 8, 1, 9, 4, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 8, 0, 0, 0, 2, 2, 4, 2, 0, 2, 0. Okay, I'm going to take the numbers again. 0, 9, do you remember? 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 0, 8, 1, 9, 4, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 8, 0, 0, 0, 2, 2, 4, 2, 0, 2, 0. These are random numbers. Now we are going to arrange these numbers into chunks. Okay, we are going to arrange them or break them into chunks. You see, it's a lot of numbers, but we are going to reduce them by breaking them into chunks. So we are going to break these numbers into 4 chunks, 4 different chunks. So first of all, let's break these numbers into 4 chunks. So let's break 0, 0, 9, 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1, one chunk. Then 1, 2, 0, 8, 1, 9, 4, 1, another chunk. Do you get it? Another chunk. Then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 8, 0, 0, another chunk. Then the last chunk, 0, 2, 2, 4, 2, 0, 2, 2, another chunk. Do you see that? Another chunk. This is another chunk. So now we have 4 different kinds of chunks. Now the 4 different types of chunks that we've taken, let's break them into pieces and see something. Let's turn the chunks into dates by bringing a forward slash or a hyphen in between them so that they will look like dates. So let's take the first chunk. Okay, the first chunk is 0, 9, 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1. That is the first thing I mentioned. Do you remember this, the first example that I gave? That is the first chunk. 0, 9, 1, 1, 2, 0, 0, 1. That is September 11, 2001, Alqaeda's attack on America. So that is the first chunk. Do you see that? Now the second chunk is 1, 2, 0, 8, 1, 9, 4, 1. 1, 2. That is December 8th, 1941. What happened? US and Britain declared war against Japan. That is the date. Then we go to the third one, which is December 12, 1800. What happened on this date? The capital of US moved to Washington, D.C. Then the last one is February 24th, 2022. What happened? Russia invaded Ukraine. These are random numbers, but you see, if you don't break them into chunks, you will never know that there are things that you already know. So now, if I have to memorize all these numbers, now that I've broken them into chunks, it becomes easier to remember them. How do I remember? The day I remember, if I already know these things I'm talking about. If you don't know these dates, then you have to use another method to memorize these things. But if you know these dates, then it becomes so easy for you. So if you know these dates, you just have to, now the plenty numbers you have to memorize have now been turned into events. That is the chunking. It has not been turned into event. So the first event is Al-Qaeda invading America. The second event is US and Britain declaring war against Japan. The third event is US capital moving to Washington DC. Then the last event is Russia invading Ukraine. So then all that you need to remember when you go to the exams hall to remember all these numbers is these 4 events. Then you remember all these 4 numbers. It is as simple. You see, so if you don't know this event, then use other events that you know. It can be your birthdays. You see, it can be birthday. For instance, let me show you something. 2805 1993 3108 1992 0605 1969 1309 1988. These are random numbers. Imagine they are together. Now, what I just mentioned is my date of birth, my wife's date of birth, my mom's date of birth, my brother's date of birth. So every number that you have can be broken down. You can break them down to the point where it becomes a familiar number. So then you can connect. So if I want to remember these numbers, I break them into chunks. Then I connect them to the things that I already have in my long-term memory that are familiar with them. So if you have some numbers and you see some 1992 and you read that the 1992 is your date of birth, now it becomes something to hang the 1992 on. So you just interpret the new information in light of the old information. This is the chunking method. This is the chunking method. Interpret new information in light of information that is already in your long-term memory. So you can go ahead and put them into practice. You just write random numbers. Okay, write random numbers: 35281982005531282020. Now break them into chunks. You realize that the moment you break anything into chunks, it becomes so familiar. And that is how you can easily remember them. This is the chunking method. My name is Moses Charisma Kokroko. Please subscribe, and then we'll go on to expose more things about this memory techniques. See you again next time.